Jai Gurudatta. Sri Akkalkot Maharaj Charitra, Chapter 9. In Time and Eternity. The Swami said, "No one should weep. I shall always be present in all places. I shall respond to every call." We have already noted the fact that Sri Swami Samartha stayed in the house of Cholappa for quite some time. Afterwards, he stayed for some time in the royal palace. However, Cholappa cherished a deep feeling that the mortal remains of the master after his nirvana should be enshrined in his own house. Though he never expressed his desire to the Swami, Cholappa perhaps believed that the Swami would grace his house with his stay for so long would not disappoint him in this respect. So, in one corner of his house, he dug a pit in the floor in which to enter the Swami's body when he cast it off. The same day, as though to answer Cholappa's silent designs, the Swami happened to pass by his house. On the way, he paused a little and, looking at the house, asked Cholappa why it was dug. Cholappa hesitated to put his thoughts out verbally and so kept quiet. The Swami smiled and said, "I shall put you in that first. I shall not leave the earthly abode soon." A few weeks later, one day, the Swami spoke to the Cholappa in a strange mood of abstraction. "Son, we are about to embark on a long journey. Would you serve me?" Cholappa bowed in a silent affirmation. Nearly a year before the Swami's nirvana, he threw numerous hints to his devotees regarding the coming events. Firstly, he stopped sleeping on the soft bed. He got it rolled up and secured on a tree. Sometimes, when his devotees were waving lighted camphor in front of him in Arati, the Swami used to hold it up in the middle of it and throw the burning camphor on the ground. One day the Swami got 500 dung cakes through Bhavedkar and got them carefully piled up over Shivalingas and set fire to them. When they were burning, the Swami got 5 seeds each of date, rice, fruits, and flower garlands thrown in the fire. This took place in the mutt of a Jangam Sadhu. The Sadhu was wild to see the Swami spoiling the Shivalingas that he established in the mud and rushed to punish him. But he approached the Swami, he could not do anything more than shout a little. The Swami did not pay the least attention to the Sadhu's cries. The next day he got the ashes of the burnt out fire removed by the devotee Bhujang. To the wonder of the Jangam Sadhu, in spite of the fire, the lingas were quite good. Perhaps through this Leela miracle, the Swami signified to all that the destruction of his physical frame would not in any way affect his existence and power even as the Shivalingas remain unaffected by the fire. One day the Swami visited the house of one Tatya Subedar. As usual, some of his devotees accompanied him. The Swami ordered one of them to remove the big stone bowl which was intended to house the Tulasi plant to the distant tank near the temple of Muralidhar to be thrown into it. Further, the Swami himself accompanied the man that carried the bowl into the tank. When it was left in the water, the Swami asked all the devotees to cry loudly, producing the sound "bum bum." This gesture stands for bereavement. Then the Swami ordered Bhavdekar to return to his native place Barsi, and when he left, the Swami handed over all his playthings to one devotee and wanted them to be given to Bhavdekar. 8 days prior to his nirvana, the master asked his devotees to chant the divine name Shivahara Shankara Namami Shankara Shiva Shankara Shambho. He Girijapati Bhavani Shankara Shiva Shankara Shambho. And he also joined them in the singing. That was the only occasion when the devotees heard the master singing the divine name. During the last 4 or 5 days of his this mortal existence, the Swami started praying in a novel manner by raising small tombs with small pebbles. On the day the Swami returned from the house of Tatya Subedar, he had slight temperature and seemed to have recovered after a little rest. But soon the fever reappeared and he stayed in a mango grove for 4 days. The fever went on rising. The Swami stopped taking his meal. A devotee by name Sakharam Lokhande sought the permission of the Swami to carry him in a palanquin to his favorite spot at Akkalkot, namely the big banyan tree. The Swami nodded in assent and accordingly he was placed under his beloved banyan. The master's condition deteriorated fast, but the Swami started going through all his daily routine like daily bath with meticulous care, as though he was perfectly healthy. He never allowed anyone to approach him unless it was absolutely necessary. Sundarabai was the only devotee that served him till his last moment. No one had the courage even to request the Swami to take his food. At last, all the devotees expressed their wish to the Swami through Subardari Sundarabai. The Swami agreed to take only 2 small spoonfuls of food. While feeding him, Sundarabai asked, "When are you going to be healthy, Swami?" The master replied in a quiet voice, "There is no question of my recovering health any more. It is time for me to return to my original abode." Sundarabai was stunned to hear those words. Many doctors from all parts of the country rushed to Akkalkot to try their best to keep the light of the Master's life burning, but the Master never allowed them to administer any of their medicines. When his devotees pleaded him with piteously to take the medicine, he swallowed a little of it to please them, but in a few moments it again came out of his mouth. Once more, Sundarabai asked him, "Swami, when are you going to be hale and healthy again?" The master smiled and said, "When the mountains would speak." However, some readers feel that this statement meant when demonic deeds stand frighteningly in the way of humanity. Perhaps he meant that he would reappear whenever great yogis who are established in yoga, firm as mountains, pray to him to manifest himself for the uplift of mankind. When another devotee, Sripad Bhatt, put the same question to him, the Swami replied, "When Pandharpur would burn." Some readers take this statement to mean when the hearts of saints, sadhus, and devotees would start weeping owing to the demonic deeds of the wicked. Perhaps it would mean that he would reappear when dharma and spiritual knowledge are in danger of being annihilated. The devotees realized that the Swami's end was near. One after another, they bowed to him and sought his final message. The Swami said to Sripada Bhatt, "Go and dig the roots of the banyan." Digging at the roots means the performance of tapas. He told Ganpat Rao, "Stay in that same temple." To Balappa, he said, "Go and live under the Audumbar fig tree," which meant that he should attend to his spiritual mission. To the rest of the devotees, he said, "Tread the path of your ancestors." Then the Master himself recited the famous verse, Shloka number 22, from the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which runs thus: "For those men who worship me alone, thinking of no other, for those ever united, I secure what is not already possessed and preserve what they already possessed." Sri Swami Shivanand's translation. It was the month of Chaitra, April to May in the year 1878, the 13th day of the dark half of the lunar month, May 8th. The Swami took just a spoonful of food at the request of his devotees. He took the betel nut which Balappa gave him. When the master stretched himself on the bed, all the devotees kept looking at him pathetically. One of them asked the master whether all the devotees should perform Anushthan. special religious performances. The master replied, Anushthan is not necessary. Just release a cow and its calf, that will do. Accordingly, a cow and its calf in the cattle shed were untied and left free. At once, the cow and its calf ran to the Swami, circumambulated his bed, touched his holy feet with their heads, and returned to their cattle shed to graze. Then the Swami spoke, Meena, Pisces is my Rasi, lunar mansion in the astrological chart. Then he asked someone whether the planet Saturn was in that zodiacal sign at that time and ascertained it. On that holy occasion of all the devotees gave danas offering to the Brahmins and the poor. One of them asked the Swami, Do you like to give any dana? The Swami replied, You may give if you like. It must be mentioned that on the previous day the Swami got a shawl worth 350 rupees dipped in water and presented it to a Brahmin by name Rama Shastri Avadhani. The Swami added, What do I have that I can give? I have only a cod piece. Even that is not my own, and I will have to leave that too very soon. One of the devotees said, Swami, here it is very cold. Shall we take you into the house? No, the master replied, I must go and merge in this tree. Here we must remember that when his devotees asked him about his caste and parentage, the Swami long ago replied, The original Purusha, the origin of the first cause, the banyan tree, Dattanagar. Even while the devotees were looking on, the peace, radiance, and intensity of Swami's looks greatly increased. The Swami asked them to help him to a sitting position. Sripada Bhatt helped him to sit up. The Swami said, No one should weep. I shall always be present in all places. I shall respond to every call. The Swami sat in the lotus posture and at once merged his spirit in the infinite. The closed eyes remained still. 3 white specks came out his mouth. His face was full of life. In fact, all the devotees were hoping that their beloved master would open his eyes to cast his look of grace at them. Some of the devotees strengthened their hearts with the parting instruction of the Swami. They took the event with equanimity, but many of them broke down wailing, beating their breast, and rolling on the ground, and some of them even fell unconscious. The Raja of Akkalkot took the body of the Swami around the town in a royal procession. The procession stopped for a moment just in front of Cholappa's house. The body was enshrined under the banyan tree which was dear to him. Saints do not die. They attain immortality and can reappear in flesh and blood. Christ demonstrated it, and so did the Swami. Later, Balappa, who was very close to the Swami, could not bear the sight of his samadhi tomb. He wept for days on end and gave up taking food. On the third day, the Swami appeared to him in flesh and blood. Balappa could not believe his own eyes, but the long hands, the Kamandala, a saint's water pot, Padukas, his penetrating look were all unmistakable. Balappa touched his feet in reverence. The Swami raised him up with his own hands and said, I have given you my Padukas. I am there in your mutt in the form of absolute consciousness. I love to receive your services there in that form. The Swami vanished as suddenly as he had appeared. Long before his nirvana, the master promised a Jagirdar of Nilegaon by name Babu Sahib that he would visit his house sometime, and poor Babu Sahib was not yet aware that the Swami had attained nirvana. On the 5th day after the Swami's samadhi, Babu Sahib, who was sitting in his house, received the news that the master came to Nilegaon along with his devotees. At once he and his family went to took his darshan. The Jagirdar invited the Swami to grace his house. The Swami said, I shall come some other time, not now. The Jagirdar and his family went home and after lunch again came to spend the rest of the day in the holy company of the Master. But there was no trace of him anywhere. In great wonder, he searched everywhere in the village and sent a messenger to Akkalkot to find out the matter. But even before the messenger returned, the Swami appeared to Babu Sahib's house. The Jagirdar requested him to dine in his house. The Swami smiled in reply and in a few moments vanished into thin air. A little later, the messenger returned from Akkalkot and told Babu Sahib that Sri Swami Samarth took Samadhi 5 days earlier. The Jagirdar's wonder knew no bounds. Even today, Sri Swami Samarth appears to his ardent devotees and he answers all prayers and petitions instantaneously. May he bless all. Jai Guru Datta.